The biggest question of ever. Can I control my drinking? That will be the holy grail of questions usually for the people they having some journeys with alcohol for pretty much longer time, when that relationship is pretty much very, very, very long distance wise. And this question is very interesting because we should ask as well ourselves kind of a question like, why do I want to control drinking on the first place? Because that will be something like, I need to control it because it's out of control, right? So let's say anytime or anyway or anyhow you've been doing the drinking in the past, it doesn't look the same anymore. It became probably a little bit more violent in terms of that you've got very often sittings when you're drinking your alcohol and next day looks very terrible, not even in perspective like you did something very wrong, but let's say just drinking for drinking itself. Let's say you're going very much over the limit, if we can actually set some kind of a limit for alcohol, because alcohol as alcohol, it's a poison and we know that. But it's because so socially accepted and people using it, right? So it's a part of gatherings, places, and so on and so on. But the question, how can I control? I need to control. I need to put some kind of a control over it. It means that every time when we try to establish some kind of a control over something, that means that the situation itself is actually slipping through your hands. So the outcome, let's say on the next day or maybe on the same day, it does not look exactly how we want it to. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look closer to that biggest question ever. How can I control it? And the most important, am I able to control it? Is it possible to control it? The alcohol dependency will be kind of the biggest factor in that one. Because let's think through. When you start drinking alcohol and you're doing it, for instance, from time to time, and on the beginning, you actually drink not that much, which makes sense because your body cannot hold that much, okay? And over the time, when years pass by, you keep drinking more regularly, so your body get used to it. Now, every time when, let's say, you remember the time when you started your first beer, you kind of had that kind of a nice, warm, relaxing feeling, and then, you know, this is actually what you're trying to pursue every time, a kind of a feeling of relaxation, to be fair. And or even if you got some kind of a thirst coming into first place, it's just because of a liquid, but you kind of your attachment to it from emotional side is, technically speaking, looking again for the same feeling. So when we drink the first one, we're looking for that one, so we're gonna get this feeling, then you get the second one, third one, fourth one, and then you start losing that, because it's impossible to create such a rush of pretty much dopamine, because that's what it is. So we're not releasing that happy hormone in our head anymore, because more alcohol actually does not give you this, but you keep going it, so you're being dehydrated, so you're drinking more, and this is actually a vicious circle. But what I'm trying to say is, and what I'm saying is, if you on the beginning needed to have just a little bit, because let's say you couldn't hold any larger amount of alcohol because you need to get used to it, to that intoxicated state, then after the time and through the years, you will have something like, it will be impossible to chase that feeling. And more and more and more does not give you nothing. But just because you keep practicing, then you are able to sustain more alcohol within you. Okay? So like on the beginning, let's say that you drank like 2 or 3 and you've been kind of a drunk and you couldn't even, think about another one. Then after some time, 3 or 4 might not do nothing to you. And if you will be coming down to the point that I would like to, let's say, lower the amount of alcohol because, okay, I want to control it, then what you're gonna be having it's like not enough. So you have cravings, okay? So because you could have a cravings when you need something and you're craving for more, but then you might have cravings because you did not get enough. That's another perspective. And not many people just look from that point of view, because cravings are not just only in the moment when you know, just try to stay away from something, but you might be doing something and you still might have cravings for more. So that is something which you're not gonna be probably able to, you know, go with it, and you will decide to, you know, automatically to go for more and more and more just to satisfy yourself. But in that perspective, if you drink pretty much long enough and large amounts enough, then most of the cases you're gonna be hitting towards the blackout. So that enough state will be a blackout. Not maybe for everybody, but in majority cases, unfortunately, that is how that will look like. And why that happens? It happens because any other activities, whatever we do in life, it's kind of like a gym. The better you know, the more you practice something, the better you're gonna start being at it. Or your stamina from doing the certain activity will look better. And it doesn't matter if it's a running, if it's a drinking beer, if it's, you know, stacking, you know, glasses on top of the other. First you might be not good at it, but because you spend more time with it, you get better and better and better. And unfortunately, in majority cases, it comes down to the point that the more is better. In perspective, that gives you better feelings when you're doing something. So when you first run, let's say 100, you know, meters run, and then after some times you're gonna be able to run 200 and 400 and 500, or even if you're doing like, you know, 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers. So then when you decide to cut to the point that you want to, you know, run only 1 kilometer, you're not going to be kind of feeling, you know, fulfilled from that perspective. And the same is with drinking, because you can see that actually when you on the weekends or any time when it's your day, when you know, you're doing your drinking, then you go into the shop and you never choose like two. You're gonna choose like 10, for instance, or 8, because you know that 2 is not enough. So how come if you decide that you're gonna do cutting on amounts or trying to control it, suddenly it's gonna be okay? You know, it might be okay from perspective of your body as in taking care of yourself, but it's not gonna be kind of okay from perspective of your psychological approach to it, because it's not gonna be feeling right. Okay. And we as a human beings, we are nothing else but a bunch of emotions and things which they go in through our heads, and thinking about this, overthinking about that. And that's why when you have a situation when you've been, let's say, provided somewhere with alcohol, if you provide yourself, then you pretty much majority cases overdoing it, even because you don't want to get to the point that you don't have enough, right? So sometimes when you go into places, when you visit someone and let's say that they are providing alcohol, you are able to actually scan it quickly how much is available, and let's say that you are in the state that you know, it's not going to be good for me. So even when, you know, any sitting or any meeting or any places gatherings are finishing, many people tends to grab something on the way, or even having something, let's say, back home waiting for them. Or maybe you are actually, before you go in somewhere, you're already doing a little bit, you know, this, a little bit that at home, because you know that in the place when you go in, it's not going to be enough from that perspective. So now you can imagine, if I train myself so long, you know, and so hard to be able to do that, what and how I supposed to get to the point that I be suddenly expecting from myself that I be able to cut it and control it. That's the very, very, very difficult and probably nearly too impossible to achieve it. I don't recommend drinking, and this whole this whole channel is about, you know, helping people to stop drinking or to get it to the point where you're already in sobriety and you want to just understand what's going on with you. But if anyone currently is drinking and is currently trying to see if he can cut it, then the simple way to do is just from the next day, if you're drinking daily or you're drinking, let's say, on a weekend and you've been usually doing 3 days, then get yourself down to 1 day and get yourself like at least half or maybe 1/3 of usually what you've been touching, and see how long you will go like this, right? So let's say that you got a situation that you're drinking every day and you drink every day. I drink only 3 lagers. All right, so get to the point and do only one a day. Do one a day. You're cutting, controlling, right? And see how long you're gonna go like this. Guarantee sooner or later you will crush on more because you know inside that that's not enough for me. But that's how a psychic works. So you get used to certain things, and suddenly someone is changing something. This is pretty much like an example of the old man who's or an old person who's working in some factory for, let's say, 20-30 years, and he always gets to sit in one place in the canteen when it does the breakfast. Now let's say there's going to be the situation that actually someone's going to sit on that place of that person. Watch what's going to happen. All right? You're going to have thunderstorms, you have problems, you're going to have people trying to persuade you to get out from it. Then you're going to have that person trying to persuade you that this is my place. And that's exactly how does it work. And the same is here. Same principle, different story, but exactly the same situation. It's more than 100% sure you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. You're not going to be able to do it. There will be some people probably who's going to say, well, I cut it and I don't drink that much anymore. I know to do this. But to be fair, from time to time, they have a slip. They do have a slip because that is literally physically impossible to do it because we're so much attached to it. So, and if anyone is telling you it's different way, 100% is lying. This is addiction, and this addiction is very hard, very strong, and very difficult. And the people always thinking that they can just cut the corners somewhere and everything's gonna be okay. Just because they're not ready to say no to something, they're trying to find a way how I can still be attached to it. The trouble is, once you start drinking on a certain level, it's nearly impossible to go back to the beginnings, right? If you've been toddler once, you're not gonna be the toddler again. I'm sorry. This is like in stages, and exactly the same way things are working around here. This kind of a control, this kind of a moderation, that is definitely a myth. It doesn't exist. If you're trying to control something, that means you have a problem. If you have a problem, you actually recognize the problem. You see it's doing something to you it shouldn't. It's doing something which is out of your control. So if you can't control it, that means there is already some issues and there is something that should be done. Because from that point, there's only kind of a one way of happening, or maybe two ways of happening. One of them is getting worse and worse and worse because alcohol is start taking over your life. So it's taking over your life so much that you don't actually know what you're doing and you try to fight it. And the thing is as well, when you have them situations, you fight with yourself, and you fight, majority cases, you fight with cravings. You can't win with them like that. It's like, you know what? I want to set the fire and I will control the fire by slowly putting the gasoline to it, But unfortunately, that tank from gasoline will cut the fire as well, because the gasoline which you put into the fire will get a kind of a stream of fire up into the tank. You're holding it in your hand, and eventually everything will collapse. But this is one of the things when people try to constantly looking from wrong perspective. If you want to definitely control your drinking, you will have to stop drinking. Only when you stop drinking, then you have a full control over your drinking, because that drinking will not exist anymore. But that's one of the decisions you have to do. You can't be on both sides. You have to choose one side, unfortunately. And trying to fight cravings, you've done it already. You've been there many times. That's why this is like the most biggest question, because people think that I can control it because I'm doing just only this and this and that. Yeah. From the storytelling side, you can tell people anything you want, because they don't live with you and they will never kind of be able to check you if that is the truth or not. It's only from perspective if anyone is honest. And we know that people like to put a little bit of stories on top of something, right? So the stories are with little cherry on top of it because it sounds better. But controlling something which is addiction, it's very, very, very difficult. And people are failing constantly trying to figure out, what can I do with this? What can I do with that? Because the alcohol took already so much from you, already destroyed your kind of a relationships, maybe your, jobs, any other places when you actually been in a position where you are actually taking care of something and you really mean to sustain it, right? But when the alcohol is involved, unfortunately, alcohol will be always on the first place. That's why it's going to be always winning with the other things. Or you could do something, but alcohol has to be involved in it. I can be somewhere, but I need to make sure the things is there. If it's not there, then I need to make sure that I can have before it if it's possible, or maybe, or definitely, if I couldn't do it in a specific place, then maybe when I'm coming home, then I need to make sure that I have something to complete the mission. And that's how does it work, unfortunately. So this big question, how to control it, the best way to control it is actually not to drink. That's how tricky alcohol is. And that's why we have so many people having so many problems with it over the years. And since any problem was established in the 50s, it is getting out of the hand, getting out of control. Then across the world, there's constantly problem with it. And if people are trying to control something, that means I'm having a problem. Because if I don't have a problem, I don't need to control it. You never put a control over something which does not actually affect you in some perspective. And it usually will be affecting you very badly. If there's anything affecting you in the right way, no need for the control. If I'm considering something that I have to control it, looks like definitely there is an issue with it. Right, so that's all for today. I hope this video was beneficial for you in any perspective. Maybe you can look on some things from the other angle that you never thought about. If you're interested with more, you know what to do. I shall see you later. And remember that you can be as well the king or queen of sobriety. If anyone did it, then you can do it. Take care of yourself.